is happening in that scenario is you're bringing this current version of yourself to the same situation over and over again. And because of who you are, because of the way that you act, because of the way that you think, without even necessarily being consciously aware of it, you keep producing the same outcomes.
Hey mate, I'm Coach Mitch and welcome to the Unbreakable Man podcast. It's my goal to help you achieve excellent results in the area of your health and physical fitness, your career or business, your relationships, and in your own personal passions. This is going to be your one-stop shop if you are the kind of man who wants to achieve his fullest potential in life. And the only way to do that is by becoming unbreakable. What's up, brother, and welcome to today's episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. Now, before I decided to put together today's episode, this is the process that I went through. I was sitting down in front of my laptop and I was thinking, what are some of the traits and mindsets that make the difference between guys that are absolutely smashing it in life and most men out there? And I ended up with a list of like maybe 30 different things. And I've whittled those things down. And out of that list, I picked 13 mindsets that I think successful men embody every single day in their lives. And so I'm going to share these 13 mindsets with you guys. I'm going to do it over 2 episodes because it might take me a little while, like to waffle on. But here's what we're going to start off with. And I think this is the number one mindset that anyone can create for themselves. I really do think this is one of the greatest gifts that you can ever receive in your life, or that you can ever find in your life is probably the right way to put it. And I do think that this is, of everything on the list, this is the one that will change your life the most. Now, that is purpose. If you've been listening to the podcast for any length of time, then you will have heard us speak about the concept of purpose on several occasions. And I'm probably going to continue to speak about it because from my own personal experience, this is a necessary part of creating the best possible life for yourself. You know, I really see it as you, my friend, are going to die one day. You have this one existence to experience everything that life has to offer and to give it your best. Men without purpose have no idea what it is that they should be doing in their lives in order to create that outcome. What I see when I think of purpose is the ultimate destination. Or purpose is the man that you want to be every single day of your life and working up to becoming that guy. You know, I really do think that when you find your purpose, if you decide to go down that path, if you decide to take that journey, I really do think it is the journey in life to work out what your purpose is and then live towards that purpose. If you decide to go down that way, when you have finally recognized that you have a real sense of purpose in your life, how I would put it is that your second life begins at that point. Like you were somebody else prior to understanding your purpose in life. And after this point, almost every facet of your life is affected because you found what that number one thing is for you. And look, it is an incredibly difficult question to answer. You know, I feel like I live a very purposeful life. I'm so energized by what I get to do. You know, I make these podcast episodes and do all my online content. I coach men every single week down at the gym. I do one-on-one coaching with guys. I take men on retreats. I do half-day events, all of this stuff. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. You know, it's not the most lucrative thing in the world, but it feels so fucking good to get to do the thing that I love doing the most. and I have so much energy and motivation to get my ass out of bed every single day, to get my ass in front of this camera, to share these things with you guys, because I really do think it's important. It's changed my life. And I can tell you also from personal experience that it took me, I've been running this business now for over 5 years. And I only really felt like I found like a deep sense of purpose, like one that I can see lasting for the next decade or 2 decades at least, about 12 to 18 months ago. So it took me a good 4 years of trying this thing before I found the way to do it that felt perfect for me. So it is not an easy question to answer. And I honestly think that just answering that question, just finding out what your purpose is a journey in and of itself. And it took me several years. And even before starting this business and going down this path, there was kind of training and, a lot of just self-work before that to even begin this business 5 years ago. So it's a real journey. It's something you have to commit to wholeheartedly. And the scary part about it is you don't know when you're going to have that realization, or when you're going to find that thing. And it's not a snap of the fingers. You almost have to become the kind of person who can find their purpose before you go and find it. You watching this video right now or listening to this podcast episode, I'm encouraging you to go and find your purpose and go and put some time into it. But you have to become the kind of person who's even willing to do that. So maybe you have to listen to this podcast episode or a bunch of my podcasts, or maybe a bunch of people before you go, man, I really don't feel like I have purpose in my life, and I can see the negative impacts that's having on me because I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know what really matters most to me. And I don't want to waste my life. So it's a bloody hard question to answer, but it is also the number one, because it's like, if you're trying to get somewhere, you need to know where you're trying to get to. That's what purpose is. But it's the destination for your life. And it's the experience. It's weird because it's the destination and it's also the experience of getting to that destination at the same time. Purpose is kind of both of those things at once. It's the destination and the journey. And to me, that it's life. So, number one mindset of any great man, any man who's really had an impact on his own life, obviously, his family, his community, perhaps even the wider community. Those men had purpose. They knew what they wanted deep down, and they went after it. Now, the second thing I've got on here is ownership. Now, in terms of mindsets that are going to help you get through the struggles and challenges in life, ownership is the first one that comes to my mind. Ownership, and here's how I want you to think about it. You are responsible for every single thing that happens in your life. If you decide to take on that, if you decide to accept that that's true for you, then your life is going to be dramatically different from someone who believes that they don't have responsibility for everything that happens in their life. Because when you take on responsibility, whilst responsibility is heavy, that's a burden, responsibility also gives you control. It gives you power in your life. Because if you're responsible for the results that you're getting, then you're also the person that can change it. But if somebody else is responsible for the problems that you have in your life, then there's nothing you can do about it until that other person decides to change it for you. And they may never do that. Ownership is absolutely crucial. If you want to be a great man, if you want to be in that top 1%, a guy that has the life that he wants, then you need to be willing to take ownership over everything, even the things that aren't technically your fault. You need to ask yourself the question, how did I contribute to this myself? If you lost your job and
and you had no money, you lost your house because you couldn't pay your mortgage anymore, and it wasn't your fault that you lost your job. But what could you have done to have made sure that you never end up in that situation again? And the answer might be, well, I need to have a really solid rainy day fund so that no matter what happens, no matter who takes away my number one method of generating income right now, I can still provide for my family. I can still keep a roof over our heads for at least the next 12 months or something like that. That's you taking responsibility. And guys who think that way succeed over the long term. And the men that blame everybody else for their problems, those are the guys that still have those same problems. Now, next on the list, check your beliefs. This is one that I've really only learned, I would say, in the last few years. And it's so goddamn important, I think, because I think a lot of us, well, every human being, I believe, has beliefs and values that we hold really dear to us, really close to our hearts, like things that we will fight to the death for to convince other people are true. And one thing that I'm trying to do for myself in my own life is to always allow for my mind to be changed on anything. That is a rule that I'm applying to myself right now. I'm willing to have my mind changed on anything. I'm not emotionally attached to any belief. If you come to me with undeniable evidence that something that I thought was true is actually not true, and the evidence is undeniable, I've looked at it, I've seen your argument, you just made great point after great point, then I will say, thank you very much. I really appreciate you bringing this to my attention. I'm going to take that on board in my life. You know why? Because I'm more interested in knowing what is actually right than feeling like I am right. I'm okay with being wrong if that means that I have the most comprehensive, most correct view of something that's happening in the world. That's what's more important to me than being right. I'm happy to be wrong on anything. If you give me the evidence that shows undeniably that something is true that I thought was untrue, then I suppose I have to be willing to take that on. So what this really means is check your beliefs. Those things that you wholeheartedly, tacitly believe to be true, are they actually true? Be willing to have your beliefs scrutinized. Because if they can't hold up to scrutiny, then maybe they're not worth holding on to. So when someone comes to you with an opinion that you don't agree with, shut the fuck up and just listen to them. Just listen to them. That doesn't mean that you're saying they're right. That doesn't mean that you're instantly taking on what they're saying as gospel. All it is you using your brain to make an educated assessment of the information that you're being given. And if it turns out that there's something in there that is actually news to you that would be really important for you to be aware of, well, now you've put yourself in a position where you can actually take that on and update your current beliefs to make them even stronger. Because that's what it usually is, right? Those things that you hold near and dear, maybe those things aren't actually wrong, but perhaps someone gives you a perspective that allows you to update your current belief and make it even more airtight, even closer to an ideal. So be willing to have your beliefs checked, gentlemen. Men that are stuck in their ways, that are unwilling to change and update their beliefs. And again, this doesn't mean that you just fold when people try to force new beliefs on you. That's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is that listen to what's being given to you and then make a decision on whether you think that is actually a better way to think. But allow that to happen. After that, number 4, I've got understand yourself. Becoming self-aware. If you've done any personal development work, then maybe you've heard of that term before, self-awareness. And I think that this is a really undervalued way of thinking. And I think a lot of men that are absolutely killing it right now understand themselves very well. They understand why they are the way they are. They understand what triggers them. They understand why they think a certain way. And through understanding themselves better, they inadvertently end up understanding people better. They inadvertently end up becoming a better communicator because they get what they're like. And at the end of the day, we're all just people. One of the tasks that we did at the Unbreakable Man retreat only 2 weeks ago is I sat all the fellas down and we had a good conversation about becoming more aware of your personality and of some of the things that you consistently do without even perhaps thinking about those things. Some of those habits and routines that play over and over again inside of your life. And look, here's a really good way of identifying some of your unconscious thoughts and actions. Look back at your life. Look at the things you've done over the last 10 or 20 years. And look at the things that sort of maybe didn't go so well. Maybe it's in your relationship. Maybe it's in your professional life. And see if you can see any patterns. See if you can see any patterns of how you may have fallen out with your missus over that time. See if you can see any patterns of how you've had to change jobs over that time. See if you can see any of those recurring instances in your life that weren't positive. What is happening in that scenario is you're bringing this current version of yourself to the same situation over and over again. And because of who you are, because of the way that you act, because of the way that you think, without even necessarily being consciously aware of it, you keep producing the same outcomes. You keep destroying relationships, or you keep end up losing your job, or you keep missing out on that pay rise, or you keep failing to stand up for yourself in situations, and you keep producing the same outcomes. And it's only when you step back, like what I'm asking you to do right now, and look at that situation and go, this shit keeps happening. So my question really here is, what is it about you that recreates that same scenario over and over again in your life? What is it about you? Understand yourself, gentlemen. Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you think the way that you think? That's a really important piece when it comes to becoming the best version of yourself and having the ultimate experience of life that you could have. The next one is kind of a continuation of the same thing. Master your emotions. And I think that you can't master your emotions if you don't understand yourself. So that's why those two things are linked. But I also wanted to separate them because of who we are on the inside, because of the way that we think, perhaps not even with conscious awareness, we tend to react in certain situations emotionally or irrationally. You know, when something happens in our relationship, or even something simple like when you're driving your car, are you the kind of guy that like instantly goes nuts when someone cuts you off, or even just goes slowly in front of you? Is your instant response to swear or curse at that person or something like that? You know, does that anger just come up for you straight away? I'm willing to bet that those same kind of emotional reactions happen in a whole bunch of areas in your life. And I'm also willing to bet that those same emotional reactions don't help you in those areas of your life. They don't improve the situation. They don't improve the relationship with your partner or with your children or with your colleagues, boss, friends, whatever it might be. They actually end up creating voids between you and those other people in your life, and also making you feel worse. Nobody actually wants to be angry. Nobody actually enjoys that feeling. It might be necessary sometimes, or it might feel like the right thing to do sometimes, but I don't think anyone really wants to be angry. So what I'm suggesting here, and what I believe really great men are good at, is mastering their emotions. I'm not saying don't get angry, because it's not like anger is never necessary. What I'm saying is get control of that anger. Use it when it's absolutely required. Use that frustration when it's absolutely required to help you do something and get the result you're looking for. Don't just allow your emotions to control you, which is what they will do if you're not consciously aware of how you're using them. And the last one for this episode, and this is so goddamn important, and it's not something that men are ever taught to do or ever encouraged to do, but I think it's absolutely crucial, is know your boundaries. Get very, very clear on what is acceptable and what is unacceptable for you in your life as a man. Get very, very clear on that. And I think that if you haven't gone through the process of understanding yourself better and controlling your emotions and doing some of the other things on this list, then you don't know what your boundaries are. You don't know what is acceptable to you and what's unacceptable. You're going to have to work that out. But get really, really clear on where those lines are for you in your life. Because even if you're not aware of where those lines sit right now, you do have them. Because you know what it feels like when someone disrespects you, or perhaps uses you and you don't feel good about it. You've had that experience, no doubt. You've had the experience of someone's done something or said something to you, and you immediately get a feeling of, actually, I wasn't okay with that, but I still let it happen. Or maybe you even get in a routine of allowing that to happen. You might be a guy listening to this right now, and already there's something coming to your mind where you're thinking, shit, yeah, I do let that person treat me like shit. Or I do allow this person to walk all over me. Or I do give up things when I really don't want to. Well, that's you not getting clear on what your boundaries are and then not enforcing them. And this is not me saying be a hard ass that doesn't give to people. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's what I'm trying to say is know where the limits lie for you. Know where you are not going to allow someone to cross. Understand where that lies for you. Get clear on it. And look, you're only going to start to build an understanding of where those lines are by allowing them to be crossed. Because you'll know when those feelings come up for you when you go, actually, that wasn't cool and I allowed it to happen. And then you have the feeling afterwards of feeling kind of weak or helpless, which is the worst thing I think a man can feel. And then you get pissed off at yourself. And then maybe you allow the same thing to happen again next time because maybe this person intimidates you, or maybe it's your partner or something like that, and you don't want to rock the boat. But now you're starting to create this feeling of resentment in this particular situation or this relationship. And that's not going to help. What you do by setting boundaries, it's not just for yourself, it's also for the other people in your life. Your partner wants you to have boundaries. Your colleagues and your bosses want you to have boundaries. People with boundaries are respected. Those great men that you want to be like, and those great men that have these 13 mindsets, they have boundaries. They know what they feel is acceptable in life and in their life, and they know what is unacceptable for them, and they stick to it. Because if they don't have those boundaries, they don't get the life they want. And neither will you or I. So it's absolutely crucial that you have these boundaries. So boys, those are the first 6 mindsets from the 13 mindsets of great men. Stay tuned for part 2 of this episode next week, and we'll go through the last 7. All right, thank you so much, my friend, and I look forward to seeing you in that next episode. Cheers. Hey, mate, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. If you did, it would be absolutely fantastic if you could leave us a 5-star review. because that's going to help us get our message in front of more men who need to hear it. Now, if you have some feedback for me, I'd love to hear that too. Comment down below. And if you just need some mini doses of Unbreakable Man motivation throughout your week, then you can follow us across all social platforms. On Facebook, it's Unbreakable Man Challenge. On Instagram, it's Unbreakable Man_challenge. And on TikTok and YouTube, it's just Unbreakable Man. Your support would be absolutely invaluable. Now, last but not least, do not forget, men aren't born, they're built.